President Trump dropped a bombshell on the international trade scene. On February 1, 2025, he announced sweeping tariffs targeting Canada, Mexico, and China. These weren't minor adjustments. We're talking a 25% hike on almost all goods coming from Canada and Mexico. China wasn't spared either, getting slapped with a 10% tariff on all imports. The move sent shockwaves across the globe, leaving many bewildered and bracing for a potential trade war. The administration justified the tariffs as a necessary measure to combat issues like fentanyl trafficking and illegal immigration. The question on everyone's mind, was this a strategic move or a recipe for economic disaster? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: the trade landscape had been irrevocably altered. The White House wasted no time in defending its aggressive stance. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt forcefully stated that these tariffs were a fulfillment of Trump's campaign promises, signaling a no-nonsense approach to trade. Leavitt emphasized the administration's commitment to protecting American jobs and interests. Advisor Peter Navarro, known for his hawkish views on trade, painted a grim picture of the fentanyl crisis ravaging America. He compared the annual death toll to filling the entire New Orleans Superdome, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Navarro directly accused Mexico of being complicit in the drug trade, a claim vehemently denied by Mexican officials. The administration, however, remained firm in its belief that drastic measures were necessary to protect American lives and curb the flow of illegal drugs. Canada's reaction was swift and resolute. The nation, known for its politeness and diplomacy, was now showing a different side. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, visibly angered by the tariffs, called them harmful and unjustified, especially given the historically close ties between the two nations. He didn't mince words, emphasizing the deep-rooted friendship and economic partnership that had been built over decades. Trudeau reminded the world that their economies were deeply intertwined. The trade between Canada and the U.S. wasn't just about numbers, it was about people, jobs, and communities on both sides of the border. In a bold move, he announced retaliatory tariffs of 25% on $20 billion worth of American goods, set to take effect immediately. This was a clear signal that Canada would not back down. This was just the first wave. Within 3 weeks, another $85 billion worth of U.S. products would be subject to tariffs. The escalation was rapid and intense, reflecting the seriousness of the situation. The list of targeted goods included a wide range of products, from beer and wine to vegetables, clothing, and even lumber. These were everyday items that would impact consumers directly. The inclusion of such diverse products highlighted the strategic nature of the tariffs. It wasn't just about economic retaliation, it was about sending a message. The message was clear: Canada was prepared to fight back with equal force. The nation stood united, ready to defend its interests and its people. Provinces across Canada joined the fray, pulling American alcohol from shelves in a show of solidarity with their Prime Minister. This collective action underscored the national resolve to stand firm against the tariffs. Mexico found itself in a precarious position. The Mexican economy, heavily reliant on trade with the United States, faced significant risks. Retaliatory tariffs were being considered, but officials were cautious, knowing that a full-blown trade war could be disastrous for their economy. Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum emerged as a vocal critic of the Trump administration's move. She rejected the accusations of collusion with drug cartels, pointing out that the United States needed to address its own demand for illegal drugs. Sheinbaum's stance reflected the sentiment of many Mexicans who felt unfairly targeted. While Mexico prepared its response, it remained to be seen whether it would prioritize retaliation or seek a more diplomatic resolution to the crisis. China's calculated response, WTO and countermeasures. China, no stranger to trade disputes with the United States, responded with a mix of criticism and strategic maneuvering. Over the years, the trade relationship between these two superpowers has been fraught with tension and conflict, often leading to tit-for-tat measures that escalate the situation. The Ministry of Commerce condemned the tariffs as unilateral and protectionist, vowing to defend its interests on the international stage. This condemnation was not just rhetoric, it was a clear signal that China was prepared to take all necessary steps to protect its economic interests. China immediately announced its intention to file a case with the World Trade Organization, challenging the legitimacy of the tariffs. This legal maneuver was aimed at leveraging international law to counteract what it saw as unfair trade practices by the United States. This move, however, was met with skepticism from some quarters. Critics argued that the WTO's ability to resolve such disputes had been compromised, casting doubt on the effectiveness of China's strategy. The WTO's effectiveness had been hampered in recent years, partly due to the U.S. blocking the appointment of judges. This blockade has led to a backlog of cases and a weakened dispute resolution mechanism, making it harder for countries to seek redress. Undeterred, China promised to implement countermeasures, though it remained tight-lipped about the specifics. These countermeasures could range from imposing tariffs on American goods to restricting access to the Chinese market for U.S. companies. It was a familiar dance between the two economic giants, each side vying for leverage and seeking to minimize the damage to its own interests. The stakes were high, and the outcome of this trade dispute would have far-reaching implications for the global economy. American consumers brace for impact higher prices loom. While the political battle played out on the global stage, ordinary Americans braced for the inevitable fallout. The tariffs, economists warned, would likely lead to higher prices on a wide range of goods. From groceries to gas, everyday essentials were expected to be affected. The U.S. oil and gas industry, particularly in the Midwest, anticipated price increases due to the tariffs on Canadian oil. This raised concerns about inflation, which had been relatively under control in recent months. Economists predicted that the tariffs could push inflation above the Federal Reserve's target, potentially prompting the central bank to raise interest rates. This, in turn, could dampen economic growth and impact consumer spending. Echoes of tariffs past. A new trade war? The sudden imposition of tariffs ignited fears of a global trade war. Businesses and investors were caught off guard, leading to a sharp decline in stock markets worldwide. The uncertainty surrounding international trade policies created a ripple effect, causing anxiety among factory workers and business owners alike. Historical parallels were quickly drawn to previous instances where protectionist policies had backfired, leading to economic downturns and geopolitical tensions. The memories of past trade wars and their devastating impacts on the global economy resurfaced, reminding everyone of the fragile nature of international trade relations. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, often cited as a cautionary tale, demonstrated the potential for tariffs to exacerbate economic hardship. This act, which raised U.S. tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods, is widely believed to have worsened the Great Depression, leading to a significant decline in international trade and economic activity. Economists and policymakers alike worried that Trump's actions could trigger a similar chain reaction, harming not only the U.S. economy but also the global trading system. The potential for retaliatory tariffs from other nations loomed large, threatening to disrupt the delicate balance of global trade. The interconnectedness of the global economy meant that tariffs imposed by one nation were bound to have ripple effects across the world. Trade networks, which had been meticulously built over decades, faced the risk of being dismantled, leading to long-term economic consequences. The question wasn't whether there would be consequences, but rather how severe and far-reaching they would be. The potential for widespread economic disruption was real, and the world watched with bated breath, hoping for a resolution that would prevent another devastating trade war. Canada-U.S. relations tested from battlefield allies to tariff foes. The tariffs also strained the historically close relationship between Canada and the United States. The two countries, linked by geography, culture, and a shared history, had long been allies on the world stage. They had fought side by side in numerous wars, from World War II to Afghanistan, and their economies were deeply intertwined. The tariffs, however, threatened to undermine decades of cooperation and goodwill. Canadian public opinion towards the United States soured, with protests erupting in several cities. The U.S. national anthem was even booed at some sporting events, a stark contrast to the usual camaraderie between the two nations. The uncertain future of global trade. Trump's tariff legacy. As the dust settled on Trump's surprise announcement, the world grappled with the implications for global trade. The move represented a significant departure from decades of trade liberalization and raised questions about the future of multilateral trade agreements. Some analysts argued that Trump's actions could embolden other countries to pursue protectionist policies, leading to a fragmentation of the global trading system. Others believed that the tariffs were merely a negotiating tactic, designed to extract concessions from trading partners. Regardless of the motivation, one thing was certain. Trump's tariffs had injected a significant degree of uncertainty into the global economy. The long-term consequences, both economic and geopolitical, remain to be seen.